No high school diploma and old tools are garbage. We have no salary for you, so you're fired. Johnson, the second-generation president of Northside Machinery, said that to me. But it's obvious what will happen if he fires me, the one responsible for managing the most important machine in this company. Who will maintain that machine? We're not going to use that old piece of junk anymore, so we don't need you. I have a lot of attachment to this company. That's why I continue to work here, even when unintentional changes kept happening after the president changed. However, I could no longer stand his tyranny, and I decided to resign. A $10 million machine broke down. Fix it immediately. I developed it, but I don't like you, so no can do. Too bad. The next day, when the machine stopped working, Johnson called me, crying. However, I have no intention of forgiving him for exploiting Northside Machinery, which I and President Christopher built up to this point. Hearing his panicked voice on the other end of the line gave me nothing but satisfaction. I am Daniel Moore, 63 years old. I work as a regular employee, making machine parts at Northside Machinery. I have loved tinkering with machines since I was a child, and this job, deeply involved in machinery manufacturing, was my calling. That's why I continue to do it even at the quite old age of 63. In fact, I only have a middle school education, and my career is not something to be proud of socially. However, the reason I can work without feeling inferior about my educational background is thanks to Northside Machinery and its founder, Christopher. In the middle of high school, I struggled with relationships and stopped going to school. Losing the will to attend school, I spent my days at home tinkering with machines using screwdrivers and junk parts. I knew I couldn't go on like this, but I just couldn't bring myself to go back to school. It was Christopher, 2 years my senior, who reached out to me. He had been looking out for me in elementary and middle school. Then, when I turned 22, he recruited me to his company. I'm thinking of starting a business. You're good with machines, right? Want to work for me? But I didn't even graduate from high school. Your education doesn't matter. I know you're good at assembling machines and that you're diligent. I couldn't find anyone more suitable even if I looked for college grads, so how about it? It was difficult for me to consider going back to high school or college at this point, and I was worried about how to find work. In that context, being valued and approached by Christopher made me happy. So, I decided to work hard for him and join the company that Christopher was going to start. That's how Christopher and I established Northside Machinery. You're better at machines than I am, Daniel. So if you notice anything, let me know. I'll respect your opinion as much as possible. He trusted me and gave me significant discretion regarding development and manufacturing. I felt a lot of pressure, but I had a wealth of knowledge about machinery manufacturing. Therefore, I could see more clearly what needed to be done in this company than other employees. Actually, I want to build a machine for processing. With such a machine, we could streamline production and increase profits. I see. But can we build such a machine? It will take time, but I'll make it with the employees during our free time. Can you really do that? Got it. Let me know if you need any materials or tools. I'm counting on you. After that, I designed a machine for processing. Then, together with the employees, we took our time and built it. That processing machine became central to Northside Machinery's operations. That's amazing, Daniel. I'm so glad I recruited you. Thank you, Christopher. You trusted me, so I felt I had to live up to that and worked hard. Hearing that the processing machine was completed, Christopher was overjoyed. Even though I only had a middle school education, he trusted me and reached out to me. I feel like I was able to repay him. Of course, the machine wasn't perfect from the start, but I replaced parts and made improvements as needed. As the machine's processing efficiency improved, Northside Machinery's profits steadily increased. Over the next 40 years, we continued to work together using that machine, but we both aged. It's about time to pass the presidency to the next employee. Christopher decided to retire from his position as president at the age of 65. Considering his age, it was inevitable. When the day of his retirement arrived, I reluctantly saw Christopher off. Christopher retired, and a man in his 40s named Richard Johnson took over as the second president. Christopher had suggested that I take on the next presidency, but I thought it was too much for me and declined. I'm going to be the president of Northside Machinery from now on. I won't tolerate slackers. Work seriously, all of you." The employees chuckled at his arrogant greeting. "What's with that attitude? I'm the new president." Applaud, applaud. Hearing his voice, the employees reluctantly clapped. Then, looking quite pleased, Johnson smiled triumphantly. Johnson had originally been the head of the sales department. Due to his high sales performance and friendly demeanor, he was chosen as the next president. However, it became clear from this greeting that his friendliness towards superiors was just for his career advancement. Despite the growing distrust among the employees, Johnson continued, "I won't allow the same lenient management as before. Work diligently during business hours and contribute to the company's profits. Don't waste any money. We don't have money to spend on your laziness." Is it really necessary to say that in the first greeting? The employees thought so, but had no choice but to nod in agreement. They could report his true nature to Christopher. But Christopher had retired. We can't rely on him anymore. We need to figure out how to keep Northside Machinery going ourselves. For now, we started working under Johnson. The first thing Johnson, with his miserly greeting, targeted was, of course, our salaries. "Aren't the salaries too high? Are you really doing work that justifies this amount?" "But there's no need to give such a big bonus, it's cut." "What? That's a problem." Having their salary and bonuses suddenly cut was unbearable. An employee protested, but Johnson didn't care. Johnson also yelled at employees over trivial matters. "Who left this light on? I told you to turn it off immediately after use." "I'm sorry." The employees could only apologize repeatedly under such pressure. "I told you to use only the minimum amount of supplies. Who took all these?" "Well, to work efficiently, we need this much." "I don't care. Handle efficiency yourself. Don't waste a single penny of the company's expenses." Yes. The constant yelling for minor things kept the employees in a state of tension and gradually wore them out. "Excuse me, President Johnson, this tool broke, and I need to replace it." "What? It broke? It must have been your fault. Daniel responsibility and buy a new one yourself." We couldn't get replacements for broken tools. Since we had to buy replacements out of our own pockets, no one reported broken items anymore. The employees managed to work by hiding these issues, but eventually, the main processing machine broke down. "Hey, why has the work stopped? You better not be slacking off." "No, this machine stopped working." "What? It was working until now. Someone must have broken it." The employees looked like they were about to cry, fearing they would be blamed. This machine cost $10 million to develop. If we had to pay for it, it would be disastrous. Seeing the critical situation, I rushed over. "President Johnson, let me take a look. I developed this machine. So, I understood best where the problem might be. I found the part that wasn't working correctly, adjusted it, and fixed it immediately. This should work now." When we did a test run, the machine, which had been completely silent earlier, started working again. "It's true. Thank you so much." Seeing this, the employees looked greatly relieved. "Humph, what's with this machine? It's a piece of junk if it stops working so easily. It's been in use for 40 years. It's quite worn out, so I've been making adjustments to keep it running." I explained the condition of the machine honestly. I wanted to steer the conversation towards replacing parts or introducing a new machine. However, Johnson misunderstood my words. "What? You're the one maintaining it? Then it's your fault the machine stopped working." "I mean, this machine is already old and..." "Still, it was working until now, wasn't it? If it stopped, it's because your maintenance was sloppy, right?" Unable to get through to him, I felt like pulling my hair out. I've been doing my best to maintain it. However, there are parts that have worn out over time and can't be helped. To keep it running more reliably, we need new parts." "No way, I'm not buying any new parts. Why should I spend money on such an old machine?" "President Johnson, the logic that because it worked until now it will continue to work doesn't hold up. As a president, he needs to make flexible decisions." However, Johnson lacks that perspective. It's clear he sees Northside Machinery only as a money-making tool. "Anyway, from now on, maintain it more carefully. If it breaks down again, I'll hold you responsible for damages." "Damages?" Your sloppy work affects other employees and eventually the company's profits. It's only natural. Daniel, full responsibility and do your job properly. With that, Johnson walked away. As I watched him leave, I spoke with the employees. Thank you, Daniel. No problem at all. But since Johnson became president, things have gotten tight. That's true. Anyone can see this machine is aging. I built this processing machine. That's why I care about it deeply and never cut corners in its maintenance. However, after using this machine for 40 years, there are parts that maintenance alone can't fix anymore. Even so, for the sake of this company, I just have to endure it. Northside machinery was built by Christopher and me. That's why I don't want it to fall into decay or collapse. To protect the company, I continued to endure Johnson's tyranny. Looks like you're working hard on the maintenance. A week had passed since I talked to Johnson. I had been very careful with the maintenance, and so far, there hadn't been any issues with the machine. However, this was only a matter of time. Without replacing parts, the machine would break down again soon. Also, there's something I need to tell you today. What is it? No high school diploma and old tools are garbage. We have no salary for you, so you're fired. What? I was handed an unexpected notice, and I was shocked. But firing me so suddenly. This is the president's decision. Of course, you'll comply, right? But if I leave, who will maintain that machine? We're not going to use that old piece of junk anymore, so we don't need you. With that, I had no retort. No matter how much I disliked Johnson, I felt I had to stay because of that machine. By the way, you're just a middle school graduate, right? No wonder you're so dumb. That's why you can't understand my thinking. His words made me furious, and I snapped back. I am indeed a high school dropout, but I have contributed to this company all this time. Don't get so heated. Are you upset because I called you a dropout? You've been hiding your lack of education. But now that I'm president, that won't fly. You can't fool me. Johnson spoke with a smug tone. Having a dropout maintain the machines is why they keep breaking down. Makes sense. Well, firing you solves that problem. Hearing Johnson's words, my body shook with anger. I wanted Northside machinery to continue thriving. That's why I had endured Johnson's tyranny for so long. However, this company is no longer the Northside machinery I once knew. My passion for this company has completely cooled, and I accept the termination notice. Understood. I will resign. Yeah, get out. Paying you is a waste of money. It's infuriating to see this important company being ruined. It will be a disaster without me, but I no longer care. Unable to tolerate it any longer, I decided to leave this company. Packing up my personal belongings, I headed home, filled with frustration. My family was surprised by my anger, but I told them it was nothing. I took care of the minimum necessary tasks, and, since it was late, went to sleep. Nevertheless, I'm sure Johnson will soon regret firing me. The day after I retired, while resting in bed, my phone rang. To no surprise, Johnson's name appeared on the screen. Having fired me, what could he possibly want now? Thinking this, I answered the call. Hello. The $10 million machine is broken. Fix it immediately. That was the first thing he said, without even a greeting. It seemed that the processing machine had broken down. I had thought it could break at any time, and it happened the day after I retired. Johnson spoke in a panicked tone. What's this about the machine costing $10 million to develop? And I can't find another machine with the same functionality anywhere. It's impossible to replace it. Why didn't you tell me sooner? I thought you had already planned to replace it, given your attitude. Did you really not consider what would happen after you fired me, even though you're a college graduate? No. He must have been so focused on counting money and making the employees work that he didn't think about how to replace that machine. Such incompetence is unworthy of a president. I tried to have someone else do the maintenance since we can't replace it, but no one knows how it works. Even when I ordered them to fix it, everyone said only you could handle it. That's right. Is it true that you developed that machine? If so, come and fix it responsibly. I did develop it, but I don't like you, so no can do. Too bad. Christopher and I built Northside machinery together, and he ruined it for money. I can't forgive him for that, and that's why I despise Johnson. So, It's natural that I won't help him now. Don't say that. The delivery deadline is approaching. If the machine doesn't work, we'll not only have to apologize to the client, but also pay a penalty fee. Can't you pay it with all the savings you've forced on the employees? Of course not. Don't think you can just walk away. If you refuse to help, I'll hold you responsible for the damages. Try if you can. I didn't break the machine. In fact, I wanted to fix it all along. But you refused to replace the parts. It's clear who's at fault for the machine breaking down. And since I've already resigned, I'm not responsible for its maintenance anymore. Johnson didn't argue back, probably realizing I had a point. He's likely gnashing his teeth on the other end of the line. If only you had bought the parts back then, but you insisted it was all my fault. I won't forget how you treated me. Fine, I'll buy the parts now, so come back. No, I won't. I hate you. Do you have any idea how we felt working under you? Damn, you heartless bastard. Haven't you been with this company for a long time? Don't you have any attachment to it? Sure, I do have an attachment. That's why I worked so hard under Johnson to keep the company going. However, even that feeling has been lost because of him. Thanks to you, Northside Machinery is a mess. I have no attachment to this company anymore. Goodbye. Hey. Thinking there was no point in listening any further, I hung up. I then blocked calls from Northside Machinery and Johnson. Having said everything I wanted to Johnson, I felt a huge relief. I then talked to former employees about the company and Johnson over the phone. If the company is in such a mess and you were fired, there's no reason for us to stay either. The employees are all handing in their resignation letters. You should see the looks on their faces. Everyone seems so relieved. Is that so? He had been working in accounting at Northside Machinery and had known me for about 20 years. Everyone felt indebted to President Christopher and endured for the company's sake. But after you were fired, they couldn't take it anymore. The company was running because of you. Hearing this made me feel a bit embarrassed, but it was true that Christopher and I were the founders of the company. I also had a sense of pride in being trusted by the employees. President Johnson, when the machine stopped working, he tried to blame us next. It's ridiculous. It's clearly his fault for firing you. No matter how much he yells, we can't fix that machine. Really, if he had just invested a little more in the machines and working conditions, things would be better. But he always did unnecessary things. Absolutely. Oh, the investigation results are in. I'll email them to you. Thanks. I appreciate it. Later, the email with the investigation results he had conducted arrived. I checked the documents and smirked. With this much evidence, Johnson wouldn't be able to weasel his way out. After completing the necessary procedures, I unblocked his number. A few days later, Johnson called me again. He must have realized he had been blocked, but he never stopped trying to call. Even after I told him I hated him, he still tried to contact me, showing how desperate he was. As soon as the call connected, Johnson shouted at me. Hey, Daniel, you've been blocking my calls, haven't you? Of course. Why should I bother taking your calls? You developed that machine, Daniel, responsibility until the end. Naturally, I wanted to see it through to the end. However, if Johnson couldn't respect me or the machine, there was no reason for me to honor my responsibilities blindly. What is the point of keeping Northside Machinery going when it's in such a mess? Because you quit. The machine stopped working. We can't meet delivery deadlines. We're being charged penalty fees, and employees are quitting. It's a disaster. Fix it. That's not my fault. It's your own doing. What did you say? Seeing that he still didn't understand, I seized the opportunity to explain. I told you the machine was getting old and needed new parts. You refused to buy them, didn't you? Well, and that's not all. You cut salaries and bonuses and unfairly fired me. Of course, the employees are quitting out of fear. It's only natural. Unable to argue against my words, he stayed silent. Employees aren't just tools. They worked here because they liked this company and trusted Christopher. Did you think they wouldn't leave after being mistreated for your money-making schemes? But I'm the president. Of course, I have the right to run this company as I see fit. Do you know how hard I worked to get this position? His determination to become president was impressive, but it meant nothing to us. In fact, I was furious with him for ruining the company. Did you really think I'd unblock you for no reason? What do you mean? I had something I wanted to tell you. I unblocked you because I knew you would call. And he fell right into my trap. I have evidence that you've been embezzling funds from Northside Machinery. I've already reported it to the police, so they'll be coming for you soon. You better come to terms with it. What? Johnson must have been wide-eyed on the other end of the line. Embezzlement. There's no way that's true. And you reported it already. That's right. I've informed them about your crimes. Embezzlement is a serious offense. Soon, the police will come to you, and you'll face the consequences. Johnson was panicking on the other end. My accusation had hit the mark. How did you find out? What? How did you investigate? I had the accountant look into any suspicious financial activity. It turns out there are multiple instances where you withdrew large sums of money. Given your usual obsession with money, it's not surprising. Johnson cut salaries and bonuses, demanded excessive savings from employees, and refused to replace essential tools and machines. He couldn't bear the thought of any money slipping through his fingers. I'm the president. I have the right to use the company's money as I see fit. It's ridiculous to accuse me of embezzlement. Even a president will face penalties if they misuse company funds, and the punishment is much harsher than for a regular employee. He seemed to shrink at my words. What kind of punishment? Will paying money solve it? If a president commits serious embezzlement, they get a prison sentence. So, you're headed to jail. Enjoy your good meals while you can. No way. Johnson, who had been so tyrannical towards me, was now being cornered and reaping what he had sown. Just sensing his panic over the phone was incredibly satisfying. Come on, Daniel. Forgive me. I'll restore the salaries and bonuses. I'll even replace the machine parts. Isn't that what you wanted? Finally realizing his predicament, Johnson started changing his tune. Tell the employees I'll make everything right and ask them to keep working as before. Otherwise, we're really done for. Even if you say that, I've already reported it to the police. Call them back and say it was a mistake. Then I won't have to face any punishment, right? Do you think it's that simple? I've already submitted evidence of his embezzlement to the police. So there's no point in trying to retract the report now. On the contrary, I would just get arrested as an accomplice. Daniel, please, I'll rehire you and make you a manager this time. It's not a bad deal, right? With no other options left, Johnson pleaded with me. If you come back, the machine will be fixed. Business will resume, and we can say the report was a mistake. The employees will all return. Everything will be solved. I'm begging you. If he were in front of me, he would probably be on his knees, begging for forgiveness. It's a pity. I can't see it over the phone. All right, I'll come back if you pay me a higher salary than before. Oh, really? How much do you want? Name your price. He probably thought it was a small price to pay to resolve this situation. Given his embezzlement, his pockets must be quite full. But I told him, $100,000. What? $100,000 a month? Can you pay me that? Johnson must have been shocked beyond belief at the salary I demanded. $100,000 a month for a man in his 60s. It was an outrageous amount. That's insane. Are you really making that much? You're lying just to make me suffer. You're more of a miser than I am. I'm not lying. Even if the person is a criminal, I wouldn't lie about something like this. Seeing his confusion, I explained. I've loved developing things since I was a kid. Over the years, I've developed many things on my own and patented them. That income brings me $100,000 a month. No way, someone like you, a middle school graduate, making $100,000. To him, that was probably a sum worth committing crimes for. But I earned it through legitimate means. Seeing this reality seemed to hit him hard. I never even thought about getting patents until Christopher suggested it. I had no idea my developments were so valuable until I applied. Now, many manufacturing companies use my inventions. Thanks to that, I can take good care of my family. Seeing Johnson completely shaken, I asked him, So, can you pay it? Damn, $100,000. But if I pay that much, I'll end up in the red. Johnson thinks that everything will be solved if I return to Northside Machinery. However, having to pay me over $100,000 a month is too much for him to handle. He's probably torn between taking on debt to pay me or accepting the punishment. If you can't pay, then this conversation is over.
Wait. What? Can you pay it?
Johnson pleaded. If you come back. He must have realized that he had no other choice but to pay. But I hit him with reality. No matter how much money you offer, I'm not coming back, Daniel Kerr, Johnson. Johnson was speechless at my words. With no escape, he must have felt utterly hopeless. Suddenly, I heard a loud noise from the other end of the line. Then, an unexpected voice came through. This is the police. Are you Richard Johnson?
Wait, I didn't do anything.
You're under suspicion of embezzlement. Please come with us to the station.
No, I didn't embezzle anything.
I'm the president. It's natural for me to use company funds. I could hear his screams from the other side, but soon it went quiet. Surely, he would now face the punishment he deserved. Hearing his voice as he was taken away, I smirked and hung up the phone. Northside Machinery went bankrupt as all employees resigned and other companies cut their ties with it. Johnson, as the president, was charged with aggravated breach of trust for embezzling company funds. He created a situation where all employees resigned, embezzled $300,000 in a short period, and caused the company's bankruptcy, leading to his conviction and a sentence of a $80,000 fine and 7 years in prison. Furthermore, due to the disruption in transactions causing actual damages, multiple other companies collectively demanded $100,000 in compensation. In court, he kept insisting that he was not at fault, but the crime of driving a company into bankruptcy for personal gain is severe. He will pay for the crime of ruining the company we cared about so much in prison. I had no idea things had gotten so bad. I'm sorry I didn't notice.
No, I didn't want to trouble you, Christopher, so I didn't tell you. I'm the one who should apologize for letting it come to this.
Don't apologize. I bear some responsibility for not choosing a better successor. This was inevitable. Everything has a beginning and an end. Anyway, it's good that Johnson got what he deserved for exploiting our company. Christopher spoke nostalgically. After I retired, I thought it wouldn't be bad to close the company. My son and daughter aren't interested in running it, and there wasn't anyone else I trusted enough to take over. You also said you weren't interested in management. So, it's better to end it cleanly than to continue aimlessly. This situation has shown that this was the right choice.
That's true. The machines I built are old now, so maybe it's the right time.
Exactly. That's why I don't see this as a negative outcome. I even feel relieved. Now, spending time with my family and you, taking it easy, doesn't sound bad. For 40 years, we started a business, developed machines, and worked hard. Ending it here felt a bit sad, but sometimes it's right to mark a conclusion rather than continue aimlessly. This incident clearly proved that. I continued working because I loved the company and tinkering with machines, but I never struggled to make a living. I can support my family well, and thanks to Christopher's advice, I have ample savings to spend on my hobbies. So, from now on, I'll enjoy tinkering with machines as a hobby and spend leisurely time with my friends and family.